Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
We should ask our SEC audience, strong audience, for the Russillo Show with Will Cain today on ESPN Radio. Do the Florida Gators, do they share the same color scheme as your alma mater? Not Texas, not law school, but undergrad, Pepperdine. Blue Waves?
Just Waves.
Just Waves.
That threw you off because of Tulane, right? Because Tulane had to
the green
qualify
wave.
Their way.
Right. I think Darien, Connecticut's the Blue Waves. I think that's what it was in my head a little bit.
Really?
I lose track of. I knew Pepperdine was the Waves, but I was like, is it a specific wave?
It's all the waves.
It's all of them.
You asked me,
Equal.
what's the Pepperdine color scheme? I said blue and orange, and we were racking our brain like, who's blue and orange? Who's blue and orange? I said, well, Broncos, but that's sort of navy and orange. It's hard. It was hard for us to go, who is blue and orange? And I think the answer is the Gators.
Yeah,
Florida
but that's
Gators.
that bright blue orange. I feel like there's still a better example, and I can't think of what it is right now. All right, we'll get there. We got 3 hours. With Will Cain today, the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Where do you start? I mean, there's so much going on, but I think you do start with the breaking news right here. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. The game I think we were all looking forward to, the game that was probably as entertaining as any that we saw over the entire weekend, and a game that meant something for the NFC standings, and that with the Eagles at Rams. That I thought, I know it's a lot of scoring, so it makes it seem like it's taking away from the defense, but it was so much fun, the back and forth. There's so many awesome players out there in that game. You're like, man, the talent everywhere, how these rosters have kind of turned themselves around in such a quick amount of time. But the headliner is in the win, the Eagles actually lose Wentz, and now we know with the torn ACL that he's going to be out for the season. And this means what?
I think it means that the Eagles are done as far as assessing who are realistic Super Bowl contenders. Can I talk about bias for 1 second, Ryan? Whenever I talk about the Eagles, I'm going to be accused of bias because I have a clearly obvious Dallas Cowboys bias. Bias is interesting because we all have it. And all you can do is try to wrestle with it and be honest about it. Mm-hmm. And then you can approximate some semblance of objectivity. Well, you know, this is the prism I view things through. Let me go ahead and make some adjustments because of that. And I don't like the Eagles. Never have. Had this discussion with my children last night. Probably my least favorite franchise in professional sports. So I think I've been slow to acknowledge how good they are as a team. That defense, especially on the defensive line, amazing.
Their rotations of guys they can use on the D-line is incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is like one of those SEC schools where you go, how do you do this? I mean, you're not supposed to do that with the cap. You're not supposed to be able to do what they do with the bodies of the cap.
Their rushing attack, I mean, it's astounding. And they're doing it with guys that on an individual basis I look at and I go, I'm not really all in on Jay Ajayi. You know, each one of these players individually, I'm like, am I really afraid of him? No. But it adds up to, what are they, number 1 in the league in rushing attack, number 2 after Jacksonville? They're up there. They're top 5 rushing attack. And even Alshon Jeffrey, I've been slow to accept that he is the number 1 wide receiver that he showed to be so many times yesterday. That catch he made in the end zone.
And that was the go-ahead after Wentz.
His hip,
right.
low.
Wentz blows out the knee, but it's not such a significant injury that he couldn't get up. He stays in for 4 more plays, and on 4th and goal, gets that touchdown, and Jeffrey just picks. See, I always liked Jeffrey. I liked Jeffrey in college. I liked him in Chicago, but in Chicago, it's this revolving door.
Though, man.
Yeah, but it's a revolving door of quarterbacks. It's all these different people. I've always thought Alshon Jeffrey's a really good receiver. I'm not saying he's, in that top tier of 5 guys, but I think he's always been underrated.
Well, here's my point in talking about bias and going through the different aspects of the Eagles roster. They are really good. I want to acknowledge that, trying to see it past the prism of my bias. They are really good, but I just don't think you survive the loss of your MVP candidate level quarterback. You cannot survive the loss of Carson Wentz, plug in Nick Foles, and say, yeah, we're rocking along. We're still Super Bowl contenders. I just don't think you can do it.
Well, who's saying that they are?
I think people are saying they're still
Super Bowl
legitimate
contenders with Nick Foles and losing maybe the MVP. All right. Here's Ryan Clark. I guess he is saying it.
This is the year of the backup quarterback, and we've seen Nick Foles excel in this league. At Philadelphia with Chip Kelly in 2013, the year that you just mentioned, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He can't do it the way Carson Wentz can do it, but he is a starting quarterback in this league. He's done it before. What you have with Nick Foles is a guy who's been there and seen things in this league. Is his ceiling as high as Carson Wentz? No, but you don't play him the same way. Doug Peterson understands this. This is why you have that stable of running backs.
Right.
You start with the running game,
Do you think
good
he'll
defense,
change the playbook?
and you don't change the playbook.
Right.
You change the play calling.
Okay.
You change what you lead with. Now they just need to lead with the run game and allow Nick Foles to acclimate himself into the offense and play off of that.
Wow. We're gonna have Jeff Saturday on. We'll ask him the same exact question. I didn't think that this was going to be really that debatable. Like, how do you lose somebody like Wentz and you're like, okay, they're still fine? I mean, people out there.
You don't. Is Ryan coming in today? We having Ryan on the show today?
No, I think he's on the Spanish broadcast tonight. So.
Oh, he's doing that. Yeah, so he's probably prepping up on his ESL stuff today. That I respect every aspect of Ryan's analysis, but he's just wrong, man. You do not sub out Carson Wentz for Nick Foles and say, yeah, we're still Super Bowl contenders. Nick Foles is a great NFL backup. What does a great NFL backup do? Win you 4 games in case your starter can come back. Not win you the Super Bowl.
Not party too much.
Well, you can party. Too much carries all the way.
Right. You can't be asking the starter. You can't ask the starter to be coming out with you all the time. It's the Russillo Show. Will Cain today. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. I didn't really think this is where the conversation was going to go, are the Eagles done or not? Because I couldn't believe that there'd be other people on the other side, like, taking that bet. Now, maybe it's because it's the NFC. If you run through the NFC, you go, okay, Minnesota felt like, and this is all quarterback bias. Is it a team with a really good record with a quarterback we're still not so sure of? Yeah, well, when you're that team, we don't take you as seriously, despite the fact Minnesota has a lot of good wins. If they were a college football team towards the end of the year in the mix for the playoff, we'd be applauding them, going, look at some of the teams that the Minnesota Vikings have beaten. These are good wins, but then Carolina takes care of them yesterday after Cam Newton had another kind of erratic game and then breaks off this huge run. So if you're going 1 through 6, 1 through 7, it's Philly, it's Minnesota, it's the Rams, New Orleans, Carolina. Atlanta's now in with Seattle's loss. Seattle would be out of the playoffs today with 7. Maybe, is it the Nick Folk fluke year combined with parity at the top in the NFC?
Nick Foles.
Oh, I just said Nick Folk.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know about his fluke year.
He could kick.
Right.
Huge slump out of nowhere.
Nick Foles, is it his fluke Eagles season with Chip Kelly and the parity at the top of the NFC that has people at least open-minded about them still coming out of the conference?
That's exactly what it is, but I'd add this little bit of icing on top of your cake there. And you alluded to this, it's the Case Keenum distortion. I think people are looking at it and going, well, look what the Vikings are doing with Case Keenum. We are not giving Case Keenum enough credit. Yes, a career backup, but the way he's playing is not what you expect of a backup. It's not what you expect your backup to step in and do. Nick Foles is a good player, but that year that Ryan referenced in that clip you just played, Ryan Clark, and the one that you just referenced, you called a fluke. It sounds mean, but it is a massive outlier. Massive on every statistical category.
It's not mean. It's the truth.
It's the truth. 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Yards per attempt, 9. The rest of his years, there were hardly over 7. A lot of years, there were 4 and 5 yard attempts. And that 1 year, he's thrown it 9 yards downfield with only 2 interceptions. His rating was 119, man. He was like, talk about MVP candidate. And that's what you're counting on? That Nick Foles? Well, that guy hadn't been here in what's it been? 6 years? 5 years?
I want to add to that, but I want to carry this over, okay? Because there is a combination of factors here. One is Nick Foles, like a lot of other quarterbacks, actually plays into this basketball question that I heard Le Batard ask a long time ago, and Le Batard was crushed for asking this question. And it was a totally, I would listen to it, I go, I'm so glad Le Batard is asking this question, okay? There's that, and another team with a really good record. It's not Minnesota, where I think we still are looking at them shrugging, going, I don't know. So more NFL stuff. We'll do that next here. Russillo Show. It's ESPN Radio.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
The most viral topic of the weekend has crossed over into everything, and I want to do that at the very end. So it's a bit of a stretch when it comes to sports, but it's going to work, so trust me. And it's the bully video that's been going around, and it's heartbreaking to watch this kid. But now the aftermath is like the 48 hours of this bully video going around. It's encapsulated just everything. It's the world. Okay, that video and then everything that's happened after the fact.
He's super pumped about this. Should have seen him in the show meeting. Ryen, bullying video.
Oh, yeah,
ready to rock.
If I were to say, do you think I was a bully or was bullied?
Honestly,
yeah,
you were the bully.
And yet, I told you before the show, I was on the bullying end at certain times.
Which explains a lot as well, by the way. But I hope you tell the full story, because your particular action that was done to you as you were bullied, I think is pretty. I got to give those bullies credit for creativity.
They were very efficient and creative with what they did to me as a mouthy freshman. And maybe I deserved it in hindsight. But this kid doesn't deserve what he's going through. But it's just social media in a nutshell in 2 days of the reaction to it. With Will Cain, this Russillo Show on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Now you can test drive Snapshot to see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. I want to talk Steelers last night, because that is my answer to the team that also has a great record, and it's not Minnesota. They have a great quarterback, and we still are kind of doing this collective, we'll see. But I want to start with just off of what you talked about. The Nick Foles year, that 27 touchdowns, 2 picks. I am with you. How could I sit here going, the Eagles will be fine. They're right in it. I mean, you just lost maybe the MVP, and now it looks like it's locked up for Brady. But how about a completely different story, a take on the Foles thing in general? It's just that how Jeff Fisher consistently has these quarterbacks that have had kind of these nice little runs and really ultimately had their worst times with him. Foles is one. Keenum actually was a little bit better in his short time with the Rams, but not this.
Yeah, you can't.
Not this. And, Bradford has had stretches where you're like, okay, now he looks a little bit better. So Fisher has all of these guys attached to him where you go, it's one thing to go, hey, he's the 8-8 guy.
Hey, don't forget Goff.
Yeah, Goff is the all-timer. And the Goff one was even worse, and I'm glad you reminded me of that one, Will, because when you go, what is wrong with this stuff? I'd hear kind of like Fisher apologists telling me, well, they can't really get a lot of people in here because nobody wants to be on the staff, so his staff isn't that strong. I'm like, this dude is untouchable.
Hey, man, a year ago, and I've been with you now for a couple months, so as recently as the spring, the conversation at times, the whispers were, well, Jeff never really wanted Jared Goff anyway. He was forced into that for marketing purposes.
Right.
He's a better coach than they're forcing players on.
Yeah, and his offensive staff wasn't that good because there was uncertainty about moving, and he couldn't get the right coaches in, and I'm like, this dude must have just, pictures of everybody, because everybody was always talking up Jeff Fisher all the time, and now you see what Goff has done this year, and he's the best example, but also at times with Bradford, with Keenum, with Foles, and you go, this is just further evidence. And I remember when Le Batard did a segment on Mark Jackson, who works with us now and was the Warriors head coach before he was fired, and Le Batard asked a question where he goes, does this Warriors run, does it become more damning evidence of what kind of coach Mark Jackson was? And people crushed Dan for suggesting that, going, no. Mark got this thing started. He provided defensive intensity, and these players got better, and that he deserves some credit for developing them. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. If the team fired Mark because they go, we can do better than this, then I would actually agree with Le Batard at this point. But it is one of those things where you can be criticized, the pros and cons of your tenure, and then there can be evidence after you're out of there or further removed from these quarterbacks that makes you wonder, wait a minute, why did anyone ever support this guy?
I can think of nothing more indicting of Jeff Fisher than the fact that 3 quarterbacks were on his roster last year, and those 3 quarterbacks are the top 3 seeds in the NFC right now. Jared Goff, Case Keenum, right, and Nick Foles. And then, look, we're not...
Foles isn't...
Foles isn't the reason
he's
where the
inheriting
Eagles are.
The seeding.
Right. But all 3 of those guys were on the Rams roster last year. And what did Jeff Fisher get out of them? Nothing. And you know who it crushes me for? You know who it makes my heart break for? Vince Young. Now, Vince Young had many of his own issues, but, I've never seen a more talented athlete in my time as a football fan at any level. A guy who could dominate every single other athlete on the field. He goes to the Titans and Jeff Fisher and goes to the Pro Bowl. And again, Vince Young had his own issues. But you're now going to tell me I can't re-engineer all the way back to that and go, if only it had been another coach for Vince Young?
Okay, whenever you went to a Pro Bowl when it's quarterback with me, I know you've lost the argument. It's kind of like when RG3 was going out on Twitter saying, I was captain of the team.
Do you really think Vince Young didn't have more in his bag than Jeff Fisher allowed us to see?
No, but I think the NFL told you that we're good on Vince Young. When I look at the 30-17 record and people want to make it out to be this other reason why he wasn't given a second chance, I I mean, he himself.
I said 2 times he had his own issues.
If he went to Oklahoma, you would never have this position.
Oh, he's amazing. I'd hate him if he went to Oklahoma because he would have dominated me for 4 years.
All right. One other question here. Russillo Show with Will Cain, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Download the app. Download the podcast. Subscribe to it. The Steelers are the number 1 seed in the AFC. And it looked like they were going to lose last night to a Baltimore team, which, to be fair, offensively has gotten it going in the last couple of weeks. They're 11-2. Are we not as impressed with a talented number 1 seeded team in the AFC as we should be? And is it all because of New England?
No, it's not all because of New England. It's because of Pittsburgh. But New England will be the truth serum on Pittsburgh. We have seen Pittsburgh consistently play to the level of its competition. Have no idea to this moment really how good the Steelers are. For 11-2, they're the most mysterious 11-2 you could come across. And here's what will be awesome about that game next week between the Steelers and the Patriots. We know the Belichick philosophy is to take away the one thing you want to do. They target Antonio Brown 18 times last night. 11 catches, over 200 yards. What will that look like against the Steelers? If Belichick's plan is to take away the one thing you want to do, what will the Steelers look like if Brown is limited? I cannot wait to find out who the Pittsburgh Steelers are.
I look at last night and go, oh, wait a minute, is the Steelers' defense hurting? Is it perhaps a Ryan Shazier deal where, that's this awful story that we still don't really even know what's going on there, despite so many reports that seem incredibly vague about Shazier's status. And again, this is the linebacker that's been injured and has been in the hospital essentially since. You go, all right, what if they had lost? But people have said, this is a super emotional week. And maybe even a part of you goes, okay, I can understand that a little bit. But they're 6th in yards, 7th in points allowed defensively. And so, last night they give up a bunch of points to the Ravens, who generally haven't been scoring a ton. I think it's all New England. Because we're
comparing them to the Patriots?
Yeah, I think we're so, and we have plenty of evidence. It's New England, Pittsburgh, and I'm supposed to buy into Pittsburgh in the playoffs again after watching them not be able to adjust whatsoever in previous matchups. Like, that might just be that bad matchup. It's not that it's just New England. It's that it's New England against Pittsburgh. And for whatever reason, Pittsburgh can't figure it out with those guys. So it feels like until further notice, we can't take them seriously when they're 11-2 and they're top 7 in those 2 defensive categories on top of all the offensive weapons that they have.
When they had Shazier. And one thing we've learned this year in particular is that middle linebacker, how important it is to any defense. Whether or not it's Sean Lee, Luke Kuechly, or Ryan Shazier, he's the quarterback of that defense.
They should have enough talent.
He's not there anymore.
I know, but they still have enough talent to be competitive defensively without Shazier.
I mean,
I know Sean Lee, the numbers are ridiculous.
They're ridiculous, and look, I've heard former players talk about this. The middle linebacker, losing your middle linebacker is like losing your quarterback. That's the guy making the play calls. He's telling the other guys on the field where to be. It's more than just losing the talent of the guy who makes the tackles. He's controlling the defense.
We got Jeff Saturday on Michael Bennett's role, who's to blame in that dust-up between Seattle and Jacksonville, and Quentin Jefferson almost going into the stands Pacer style in yesterday's game. So we're going to talk with Saturday. Want to remind everybody, with the gifts rolling in, Amazon has millions of toys and games to choose from this holiday for kids of all ages. Check out Amazon today. With Will Cain, The Russillo Show, ESPN Radio. The viral video from over the weekend, we're actually going to do this topic here for a little bit. We got Will Cain, Russillo Show on ESPN Radio because it covered everything. But let's stay with the football right now. We get Jeff Saturday in studio. I know, Will, you wanted to start somewhere.
Yeah, Jeff, talk to me about the end of the Seahawks-Jags game, the Michael Bennett play. Who was in the right, who was in the wrong?
Game's on the line, obviously. They're trying to run the clock out. They're going to kneel it. As an offense, as you approach the line of scrimmage, as you're getting down, are they in a real stance? Are they unbuckling their helmet? Are they undoing their shoulder pads? I'm serious. Like, that's real, right? They get down that position, they're firing out. You look at them, hey, protect yourself, right? Because the offensive line, they should be going forward and staying low and submarining, right? That's how you protect your quarterback from getting hit if somebody blows through the line. So that goes on. That is what it is, right? The Jacksonville Jaguar offensive line didn't handle it the way they should. Jefferson stacks the guard up. They get into a little push and shove match. But Bennett tries to swipe the ball from Linder, which is their center, and so he tries to swipe it. He misses, and Linder's trying to get up. And then here we got this, Bennett, who's just acting like an idiot, grabbing legs, trying to tussle with him because he couldn't swipe the ball. Again, I don't have the problem with you trying to go for the ball, but the play's over, bro. Snapped, it's kneeled, it's down, it's done. Instead, he's trying to grapple with him. Another one of the Seahawks comes over and pushes Linder down from the back. And all of a sudden,
it looked like Bennett was trying to roll him up.
Yeah,
too.
He's trying to get up on top of him and all that. And the bottom line is Linder snapped it, stepped forward, and didn't do anything wrong. And that's the deal to me, is at that point, it's become you have an attitude problem. It has nothing to do with wins and losses. You freaking lost. By the way, on 3rd and 11, they ran it right at you. You got pushed back. The whole defense got smashed around. They run it for 11 yards. Fournette gets it, right? They're fired up. They closed you out. I have no problem with you trying to attack the ball, doing those things. But when it's done, the play is done. We don't need a wrestling match after. And the problem is this is the same kind of issue. It's post-play nonsense that does not have any place in our game.
Well, but let me clarify, because this is the kind of insight that you can offer that Ryan and I cannot. So I see Bennett dive at Linder's legs twice. The second time is clearly after the play is over. He's diving at the back of Linder's legs. But what about at the snap? You said he's swiping at the ball, but it looks like he's kind of rolling into Linder's legs.
Right.
It looks malevolent. Is that a normal play?
Yeah, if he's trying to swipe the ball as a center, when you snap it, you're trying almost like a sprawl in wrestling. You're just trying to catch him because you just got to make sure the snap gets back. What he's trying to do is jack up your snap between you and the QB. Hopefully there's a fumble. They can scrum it and get it. And I get it, right? I mean, it's happened my whole career. But you catch him like in a sprawl where you fall down over the top of him. So now you're going to be over the top of the defensive lineman, right? So he's draped underneath you. And it's like now he's pissed that he's underneath Linder because he dove out and tried to do that, right? Again, that's not the issue. The issue is after the play's over, he's ticked off that Linder's on top of him and laying on top of him or whatever as they're trying to get up. Now he's grabbing legs, like you said, trying to roll in the back of his legs, trying to re-roll him, and then his buddy's trying to push. Hey man, you lost, bro. Like let it go. And don't have anybody. Don't risk an injury because you're pissed because the game's over.
What did you think about Jefferson, his teammate, and another guy on that D line there, being upset with the crowd because he's going to the tunnel, he's thrown out, he's leaving, and then he turns back around after he has stuff thrown at him.
Yeah. So I'll say this. So the first one, when he has his helmet on, he's running in, and the first guy throws it. You just got to keep going, right? At that point, I understand. Does it aggravate you? Absolutely. I've had people throw stuff on me, no doubt. Every player who's played in a contentious football game or some kind of rivalry, it's happened to us. So as you're going in, popcorn's getting dumped on you, drinks are getting dumped on you, whatever it is, and it's not fun, but it happens, right? And we need to handle from the fans' perspective from that. When he goes back out, though, takes his helmet off and goes back out, and he's jawing back and forth with the fans, I really didn't have much of an issue with what he's saying, right? At that point, when they throw something at your face at that point, I fully understand him, being ticked off. It should have never gotten there, but those fans, the people who threw that stuff, never again should they be in a stadium. But I'm just telling you right now, like, player health and safety, we talk about it, like, that's it. We fine each other for going at each other. If a fan is throwing something at your face, obviously, they don't care about our health and safety, and it's not a right to go to a football. At that point, you're done. Pack them up, get them out. But he should have just kept running on the first part of it. Once it got to that, I'm sure he lost his mind. But in my opinion, it's a fine. There's no suspension. He didn't get in the stands. He got stopped. I get the optics of it look bad. We got pictures of our own people snapping some photo and putting it on. I get it. It doesn't look good, but he didn't hit anybody. He didn't do any of that. He had a verbal exchange. The league needs to fine him from the fan perspective or whatever that nonsense is, and then move on.
What are the Steelers? Because I watch them and I'll think they're 11-2. Do I have doubts about them because of New England staring them down? Or because when I see them play bad teams, it seems to be close, and yet I still think they're as talented as anybody. So
they're loaded talent-wise. But to your point, they play to their opponent, and that always makes you nervous when a team does that. And last night, Antonio Brown just played phenomenal football late in the game against a good defense, really. And as you're looking at what they were able to do in the fourth quarter, how the Ravens didn't close that out is shocking. I'm similar to you, though. I think the matchups for the Steelers, and it'll be interesting to see when they have to cover the Patriots out of the backfield, whether it's Burkhead, whether it's Lewis, whether it's White. I mean, just keep naming them. That's going to be a tough matchup because they give up a bunch of big plays, and those guys out in that open space can create all kinds of havoc for you. But on the offensive side, man, they are as talented as anybody in the NFL, and they are making it happen. And whether it's Bell, whether it's Brown, every once in a while it'll be Schuster, then it'll be Bryant. And Boswell, I've heard him thrown in the killer bees. Now the kicker, everybody's getting a shot. And listen, as we're talking about everybody else, let's talk about the offensive line who for 66 plus or whatever it was throws last night absolutely balled up front to keep Roethlisberger pretty clean for the majority of the day.
As Super Bowl contenders, are the Eagles done?
No, definitely not done. I'm telling you, I said this earlier today. But what Wentz gives you, Foles cannot replicate. I understand that. It's not his game. But they're a good enough football team, and they have lost some really good players. I mean, you think about Peters was gone, Darby didn't play half the season, Sproles is out. I mean, you can go through the list of special teams players they've lost, and they just keep reloading. This is a good overall team, and they believe in that team concept. So whether it's Ajayi, whether it's Blunt, whether it's Clement, Smallwood, they have enough running backs, they have enough guys on the outside who will make plays for Foles. They stay committed in the same way. Schwartz's defense isn't going anywhere. He understands how to run it. And by the way, like Cox didn't play some games. I mean, and it's like you don't even know they're not there. They just keep replacing guys. So I would absolutely say their Super Bowl hopes are still alive. Not as strong a contender with when they had Wentz, but they still have a full opportunity to make the most of that NFC.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you.
We'll have more on the Wentz injury, again, official today, torn ACL, out for the rest of the season. We haven't even touched on Baker Mayfield. I know you want to do the Michael Bennett Seahawks thing, but coming up next, it's kind of sports, but it's also really kind of today, and that is a viral video about bullying that everybody felt great about for half the time it's been out, and now everybody is questioning the motives behind it. So we're going to discuss that because social media is everything as far as our daily deal, and this is a perfect example, again, with Will Cain, the Russillo Show, ESPN Radio. So I'm going to fly through the timeline. Most of you have seen it. Some of you haven't. And it's a young boy out in Tennessee. His name's Keaton. And, you know, he gets bullied. And he gets bullied at school. And anybody that's been on the receiving end of bullying, especially when you're a young kid, it's rough. It's brutal. If you're a parent and your kid maybe socially isn't as caught up as the other kids, that's going to be heartbreaking to have your kid come home and tell you he doesn't like going to school or she doesn't like going to school because other people making fun of him. And the first time I watched the video, it made me really sad. The kid's crying. He's really well spoken. He's making great points. He's like, the kids pour milk on me. They put ham down my shirt, and they do all these things. And you watch a video, and your heart breaks a little bit. And I think inherently the beginning of this story is that people can be really good, and people see bad, and they see people being upset, especially when it's a kid, because everybody should like kids. And they want to do something to help. So then everybody jumps in on this deal and being like, I want to help. And the UFC reaches out, which is great. We reached out at ESPN. Game Day reaches out saying, come hang out with us, Keaton. You're the man. Like, yeah, you got to tell these bullies it's not cool. Snoop Dogg, Bieber, Katy Perry, everybody's reaching out. And then it turns into if I'm in the public spotlight, do I want to be left out? Now, I might, I got to invite him to something here, so I don't seem like a bad guy. And then I also have a real problem with people in social media in general where they find a way to save the video to their feed and then they tweet it out to get their retweets or likes on Instagram when you're like, you just took the video from the initial thing where it all started. Will Cain, Russillo Show, it's ESPN Radio, brought to you by Upside.com, giving all business travelers the gift of a better travel experience this holiday season. Upside.com. They start up a GoFundMe. That's at $55,000. There was a hashtag that said, give the Jones a good Christmas. That's Keaton's family. At one point, I saw a P.O. box set up for gifts, and I'm like, okay, where's this going? And then you start to think, is everybody just doing this? Patricia Arquette at one point demanded to talk to the principal, and then you go through the comments, and somebody's like, oh, my God, you're my favorite actress. And you're like, no, we're on bullying right now. We're on bullying right now. And then you give it a day, and then guess what happens? People start digging into the mom's social media. She's the one that posted the video, and I'll admit, as I sat there and I watched the video, I go, well, wait a minute, did you have to do this to your kid? And did you do this for bullying, or did you do it for some other motivated reason? I think this way. I think this way about everything all the time, which I wish I didn't, but I just think that's what's up. And then they find some pictures of her, some posts where she's talking about standing for the flag, complaining about Black Lives Matter, then a picture with a Confederate flag, and now she's a racist and called out. No one should donate to her. All of this happened in literally 48 hours. Not even. And that is where we're at.
Amazing. I don't even know where to pick it up. There's so many threads to pull on. I mean, you touched on all of them right there. We talked about this pre-show. When I saw the video, you hit all these notes, I think, but Do we all have to get in on it? Like, do we all have to high five and go, me too, and you can come, and I've got your back too, and come on up to the Russillo show and hang out with me and Ryan?
Yeah, that's kind of what it is that you'd almost, you want to believe people are motivated. And I think, the people that I know, like when Randy Scott from SportsCenter saying, come visit, I know Randy. And Randy's like, yeah, come hang out. And it's awesome.
But why did this, yeah, bullying is awful, and what happened to this kid is awful, and he's clearly emotional about it. But I'm just curious, why this time? Is it because the video just came together perfectly?
Yeah, because it was a good video.
It's 100 kids this week that something like that happened to.
Easily.
Second point, which you bring up. You put that on the internet? Your kid's bullying incident and his emotional moment of sharing it with you, you put that on the internet? How about calling the school?
And then, of course, people were tweeting out the wrong principal, and then somebody had to be like, this is not the same middle school. And then it turns into this thing that it became kind of a conservative liberal thing, which was amazing, right? Where you had some journalists that I would say were more on the liberal side were saying, this is what happens in society. Little mean boys grow up to be mean men, Trump, Trump, Trump. And then the next guy jumps in and he goes, wait a minute, are you trying to say little girls aren't mean to each other?
Oh, God.
And then it became a debate on gender that was initially started by a political lean. And now the family may be racist, but he may not be because he's still young and he's off the hook. This thing.
Oh, and then that's the final string.
Is perfect. This thing is perfect in the way it covered everything, man. It hit it all in less than 48 hours. And at the core of it, I still feel terrible for this kid that had to feel this way and cry in a video.
Isn't that
That's
the point?
what this thing's supposed to be.
Right? In the end, by the way, you cannot put yourself in the public eye clearly without putting yourself up to the internet detectives who are going to go through everything in your background. I asked earlier, what was it? Is it Ken Bone that everybody's background went into?
Ken Bone's the best analogy ever.
Because he dared to ask a question of presidential candidates.
In a red sweater.
I don't even remember what they found. I just remember there was some investigation of his background that turned up something because what was it? Was it racist?
No, I believe he went even a little outside of the boundaries of a certain kind of taste. So, Rudy, you can help us out here. You research on it. Where's our Ken Bone file?
I think there were some questionable tweets.
Yeah.
Of the sexual nature.
Yes. So then it was like Ken Bone.
Can you go into more detail?
Ken Bone went from the tweet, and this is the tweet right now. You know what I mean? And it's a little played, folks, is Ken Bone's the hero we need right now, or Ken Bone's the hero we deserve.
And then, who's that guy, by the way? Is he? Hold on a second. Let me just go into his background.
How about the thing with the deal, though? Because, I go, all right, so here we go. We got a kid who's crying, and that sucks. And it's right to feel sad, and it's great that people are motivated to be like, you know what, I want to cheer this kid up. Because if you've been bullied and you grow up as somebody, you know what it's like, and you're like, this isn't fun, man. And you're a kid, and it means everything, and you don't have as many friends. It's a heartbreaking feeling, okay? Because some of us went through it. Some of us have siblings that have gone through it. Some of us have had kids where you just go, I know my kid, socially right now is not as caught up, and she dreads going to school every single day. So that's, in the beginning of this, it was so nice. And then it was about kind of taking the content to get the retweets, and then it's kind of about the P.O. box, and now it's a $55,000 GoFundMe. And now you're going, well, wait a minute, is his mom racist and she used this video to raise money, and is the sister doing fake Instagram things? And then is this because it's men are bad? Is this because of race? Is this because of schooling? And it's just
everything.
It was amazing how much this hit on. I can't believe Brexit wasn't brought up at some point in
this. There's time. There's still time.
And it doesn't change anything of not feeling bad for the kid. I hope he makes it up here to ESPN. But
man, that really is the lost thing in this whole ordeal. The kid. How far back into the background is the kid now of this story? Another thing is, none of it helps him. None of it, including the mom's post. When I saw that, I'm like, Monday's not going to be fun for that kid.
Maybe we'll touch on that again a little bit later. All right, coming up. Yeah, I want to talk Michael Bennett. I know you do, too, with the Seahawks and their loss.
Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
A little bit of breaking news here. I want to make sure I get this in. Our old colleague Andy Katz, who's now working at NCAA.com. Did you see this?
Yes.
You know where I'm going with this?
I think so.
Well, yeah, they probably called you ahead of time.
Get my approval?
University of Vermont has named their home basketball court.
But this is an incredible honor. I didn't know this.
After legendary coach Tom Brennan.
Oh, that makes that makes way more sense.
You guys like, no, guys, Ian.
Yeah, Tom Brennan. No, Tom's the best, the mayor of that town. So, yeah, that's right. They're dedicating the court after him. I was retweeting that a little bit earlier. Get a little Burlington in the show, which means somebody will request for me to come on today. I'm like, I don't really have much else going on. Jacksonville, Seattle. Seattle just had this unbelievable performance with all these guys missing from their secondary. They beat the Eagles, okay? They hand the Eagles their first loss in a while. Russell Wilson, man, look at this dude. He's going to be the MVP. Yesterday's game against Jacksonville was weird. Wilson didn't play well. They kind of made it interesting late, but then everything kind of goes down at the end.
And Bortles did play well.
And Bortles did. And Fournette called him a top 5 quarterback, and then they tossed it back to the studio. Did you see that with Ryan Clark?
No.
Ryan Clark covered his face with papers. It was just like, no.
Earl Thomas called him subpar after the game.
He said he was subpar.
Bortles.
That's probably but look, Bortles has had some nice numbers, okay? Bortles service, going to fire that back up here a little bit. But that's not really the story here. The story is the Michael Bennett altercation at the snap when they're taking the victory formation, taking a knee, and then Quentin Jefferson getting tossed and then almost going into the stands.
Why does Michael Bennett get such a pass? That's the question.
Pass in which way?
Come on, we're not talking about it. Nobody's talking about Michael Bennett at the end of that game. You and I, we just talked about with Jeff Saturday. We're the only ones talking about this today. Michael Bennett diving at the offensive lineman's legs, clear intent to injure at the end of that game. When you dive at the back of someone's knees, when you're diving at their ankles, when you're diving in these zones from behind, you're trying to hurt them. Michael Bennett is doing nothing but causing havoc as that game ends.
I agree with you. I don't know why. Why wouldn't you do it in first take?
I don't know. We didn't do it. I feel like we never do the Michael Bennett revisit. We never do.
This is about something else. This is about going all in on Michael Bennett, the Vegas police interaction, and then you and I, it felt like being one of the few people that actually revisited it after more video came out and questioning his position on it. And so this isn't about the play against Jacksonville, is it? This is about nobody.
For me?
Yeah, this is about the video. This is about Vegas.
For me?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
It isn't. Okay.
I think it's an incredibly dirty play at the end of the game that helped exacerbate the entire tensions of the game, which then spilled over.
Yeah, where Quentin Jefferson's like leaving.
Yes.
He threw a punch, but he's leaving, and then it looks like he's almost going to try to go into the stands.
And then Michael Bennett plays this role in the locker room afterwards where he's pushing the press away, essentially going, he doesn't have to talk to you guys. He's a human being. Get back. You got what you wanted here. As though all anybody wanted was to vilify these guys. And I just feel like no one ever... He's nominated for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. And no... Fine, let's just tell the whole Michael Bennett story.
See, I think that might be your answer then, okay? You and I are in agreement on Michael Bennett. Like, I've about had it. And after the police video stuff, I feel like, you know what? There still could be more evidence out there, but people wanted that were all in on Michael Bennett the first time around, didn't have an open mind the first time the video came out, but then wanted to have more of an open mind when the second video came out, which I didn't quite understand. It's like, wait a minute, this is more evident. And what happens is this is it. None of us really want to be wrong. So if you've gone in on Michael Bennett and you do talk about all the great things that he does off the field, then you only want to focus on those things and not address the evidence that may make you wrong in your position. And so, when both Bennett brothers get up and they call college football slavery, I just go, it's not the greatest system, but it's definitely not slavery. It's definitely not slavery.
It's definitely not.
So I'm with you. I'm in agreement with you here. I'm only trying to explain that I think so many people have gone in on him to kind of double down and be like, no, Bennett's telling the truth. Bennett's telling the truth. That even if there's evidence that shows you that maybe this guy isn't the greatest dude all the time, and that he's almost like a purveyor of hysteria at times, maybe people just don't want to change their mind. You think that's
I'm with
it?
you. When you say this is all about Las Vegas and ask whether that's what it is for me, no, I think that's why Michael Bennett keeps getting a pass to talk about. He's not scrutinized on all these other issues that are clear. That's an interesting term you just used, purveyor of hysteria, but clear falsehoods or exacerbations of bad situations. because everybody went in on Las Vegas, the first story, the first one. And then ever since then, there's been this consistent pass on everything Michael Bennett does.
I haven't caught every show. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I can't believe today, like his part of that story is not part of this being discussed.
And everybody is talking more on Jefferson. And I'm talking football writers going, Quentin Jefferson, and he's going down the tunnel. He's tossing the game. He shouldn't have punched Fournette. But clearly Fournette, and I think players always are like the keys here. When Bennett does that BS with the offensive lineman and tries to kind of do this roll-up thing behind him, like you're trying to hurt him. Fournette sees it, and Fournette, when everybody stands up, goes right at him.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, Fournette's going, no, that's not cool, man. And then Jefferson punches Fournette. Jefferson gets tossed out. Somebody throws something at Jefferson, which isn't right. And I actually don't have much of a problem with Jefferson, like, going at the stands. Now, going up into there, maybe fighting guys, like, no one's going to say, hey, that's a good thing for the league. But I'm not suspend Jefferson. People were saying, oh, suspend him for the year. It's such a bad look. Fine him, move on. People threw stuff at him. He was emotional. I understand his position, even though he was in the wrong for some of the things he did. And here he was after the game.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm a human just like anybody else. I'm a man just like the other man in the stands. And I'm not gonna let somebody disrespect me, throw a beer on me. Like, just because I'm playing football, I'm still a human being. I'm still a man. And so I'm out there playing a game. And at the end of the day, it's a game, and I'm a man. I'm not gonna let somebody disrespect me like that.
Going into the stands, do you think that was the right call? Was you still?
I don't know. Was it the right call for him to throw?
No, it wasn't. It absolutely wasn't. I'm just wondering.
I'm just wondering if it was the right call for him to throw a beer on me.
See, here's the thing. It's not a aren't we all humans competition. You said you understand Jefferson's reaction to a beer being thrown at him. I certainly do too on an emotional level. But you know what Jefferson is that those fans are not? You know what Jefferson is that when he's comparing himself to the guy throwing the beer and the reporters ask him the question, but was it the right thing to do? That the people standing up there are not? A professional. He's a professional getting paid millions of dollars a year because he is a unique person with special talents in this world. And
so you have a higher expectation for how he conducts himself.
Of course.
Okay.
Than somebody that paid $60 or let's call it $180 for their pretty good seats.
Almost terrible seats at one point.
And that guy clearly is in the wrong. No one's defending the guy that throws the beer. But let me just tell you this. The NFL is on a razor-thin edge of the malice in the palace there. Jefferson gets into the stands and starts throwing punches with fans. You will have the NFL explode. Jet fuel on a fire. All this tension we've had, well, not it's been racial or patriotic or fan versus players. That is jet fuel on a fire. That whole industry, the NFL as a business explodes. It's all we talk about for weeks. That has a threat to collapse the entire business. I don't know that you suspend.
You think it could collapse the entire business, something like that?
I think that the NBA knew what a threat it was when those guys went to the stands in Detroit. Was it Detroit? Yeah.
Yeah. Malice
Yeah, the Palace, right. And they responded accordingly. They realized what a threat that is to your game. And I think the NFL, at this moment in time especially, would have recognized that for the threat it is.
Okay, but that, I think, is my question.
It doesn't mean I don't understand Jefferson from a human level. Like, I understand why he got upset.
Somebody saying Jefferson should be gone for the year is crazy to me.
Nuts.
I mean, look, fine him, move on. I understand your position that you have a higher expectation for him. Others would say, hey, it's man, he's a man, I'm a man, we're all equal. I think that's what Jefferson's going for here. But the NBA lost sponsorships.
Yeah.
But is losing a sponsorship as bad as that is? Does that mean that your whole business plan is in jeopardy here? I think that's where I'm with you. We're hanging out. We're rowing the same boat. Going, all right, sponsorships. Yeah, and then I'm like, the NFL's done. Like, we're canceling.
Hey,
no, that's
ask me
canceled.
who the sportsman of the year is, the most influential person in sports is.
All right, I'll ask you that next. All right, I'll ask you that one next.
And then let's revisit.
We'll do that. And why the Giancarlo Stanton trade very well could have been avoided. Okay, they could have avoided this. I'm going to tell you how the Marlins could have saved face, specifically Jeter, with Will Cain, the Russillo Show, ESPN Radio.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Baseball, though, on a Monday, believe it or not. Baseball on a Monday, that's with Giancarlo Stanton being traded from the Marlins to the Yankees, and almost everyone is mad, unless you're a Yankees fan. Job well done by the Yankees trading for Stanton. Job well done, brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. With quality parts and know-how, Napa Auto Parts can help you keep your ride running longer, stronger. That's Napa know-how. Your level of interest in the Giancarlo Stanton thing, where are we at?
Some. Yeah.
Some.
You want to put a number on it?
Because normally this wouldn't sell. It'd be a tough sell in the pre-show. It wouldn't play. You go, baseball, Monday, we just lost Wentz for the season. Pittsburgh comeback win was a great win for them last night. But this is a bigger deal. This is kind of ownership 101. I always laugh in the NBA that new owners should just pay me to consult them. Like the first 6 months, they buy a team. It's kind of like when you move in a new house. You start doing stupid stuff like ordering really expensive outdoor furniture, even though you don't have much of a patio.
Just did it.
Yeah, I did it. I did it. Like, why do I need a fire pit? I don't have any friends, and I'm not outside that much. But you do it because you move in. So when you're a new owner, you're like, all right, I want to do something here. I want to trade for somebody. Yeah, let's do a trade, man. Yeah. Let's do a trade here.
So you're just like the cooler. You want to come in the first 6 months, just be the cooler.
Like, all hey, all the stuff you're going to want to do in the beginning because you're just going to want to do stuff, don't do any of it. Because you usually end up doing something really bad or you pay too much for a free agent. And then the other side here, Jeter trades Giancarlo Stanton. Now, this Stanton deal was always a joke from day one. And I went on this rant years ago. I went on it again 3 years ago because Stanton signed a deal at the time that was 13 years, $325 million. And I said, there's no way he'll ever be on this Marlins team when the real money kicks in. And ironically enough, the real money kicks in 2018, where he's going to be paid $25 million a year. But that was under Loria, okay? That was Loria and Sampson, and those dudes got together and said, hey, how can we just steal a ton? How can we just steal? And they were like, here's how we'll steal. Recently, Sampson said at Le Batard show, he's like, I'm not quite sure what Jeter's plan is. Like, that dude can start calling out somebody else about ownership. But like, yeah, your plan was let's be thieves and get away with it. They front-loaded all the contracts that they did, and they traded everybody away. They lied to everybody on and on and on. So here is this Marlins fan base that I have so much sympathy towards, and they have one of the best players in baseball on the roster, and Jeter buys a team with only $25 million of his own money when the cost of the whole thing was over $1 billion, but I guess that's part of just being Jeter or being some of these guys that just get to attach their name to these projects, and he's trading him back to the Yankees. This isn't a Yankees conspiracy for me. This is Jeter who should have looked himself in the mirror and said, okay, I don't like that contract. But the first thing I can't do is mimic the previous ownership that were just pure evil. They were the worst people in sports running this Marlins team, and I can't do the exact same thing to this fan base that has been absolutely ravaged with lies and taxpayer money. And that's what Jeter did. And he should have sat it out for a year. He should have paid Stanton $25 million, and if they weren't any good, he would have been even more miserable, Will, and that way he may have been less demanding on the no-trade clause and found a way to move on, because right now, Starlin Castro and two marginal projects is a joke for one of the best hitters. I don't care what his contract is.
So your argument as the cooler stepping into Miami is not don't make this deal, Derek. It's don't make this deal right now.
Yeah.
You're allowed to trade Giancarlo, but do it a year from now after he's sweated out a year on bad baseball team. He drops some of this no-trade clause negotiation. We have a few more teams we can deal with, and we get a better return. That's what your advice to Jeter would have been.
Yeah, because $25 million for 1 year of Stanton at 28 years old is not the end of the world. And you should want to, and I normally don't act this way. If you're running a team, tell the marketing people to stay away from you. Tell the salespeople, I don't want to see you. I have to make baseball, basketball, football decisions, whatever you're doing. But when you put yourself in this situation where Jeter's like, all right, bought the team, contract's too expensive, and now the real money starts kicking in, I have to get rid of him, it is worth it to you to make that first impression to your fan base, to pay that $25 million in that first year to keep this dude around, and then you can move on from it. Then you can move on a year later.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in trying to be a devil's advocate to your advice to them is, doesn't that put your future plans just on hold for another year? You're banking a lot on getting a bigger call, a bigger return for him 1 year from now. When the business model, the plan is the same either way. It's fire sale. They have to have a fire sale. They have to rebuild, not because Jeter is just like Loria, but because Loria put all this in place. He's responsible for the situation.
The no-trade clause is his fault.
That's right. The fact that it's backloaded, his fault. The fact that it's $300 million, his fault. Jeter has to deal with all this, and the fire sale is the way to deal with it. It's not trying to idolize and mimic Loria, but to fix the problem. And I think that the devil's advocate rebuttal to you is, if I wait a year, I'm just putting off the rebuild.
Here's Jeter. This is moments ago in a teleconference talking about why he did this move.
I think the one thing that everyone needs to realize is this is an organization that has not been successful. They have not been in the playoffs since 2003. I don't understand how the fan base feels because they've been through quite a bit. But for us here, we haven't been winning. So if you haven't been winning, then it's time to make a change. And in order to make a change, there's going to have to be some moves. And like I said, that you alluded to, there may be some unpopular decisions at times. But every decision that we make as an organization is to try to put us in a better position. We're trying to fix something that is broken, and the fans want a team that's going to win. I mean, they show that because, we have to get fans back into the stadium because, we haven't had our attendance has been low. And I think that the attendance is low because they want to have an opportunity to win. And if they want that, then we're going to have to make some changes. So you're right. It is a balancing act, but, hopefully they understand that, we're trying to put an organization together that is successful.
Here's Lebitard this morning on Golick and Wingo with the real problematic part of this, and that is just the tie to the Yankees.
It feels like Wall Street fraud that the former Yankee, the famous former Yankee, and some people who are listening to this are going to say, well, they tried to trade him to St. Louis first. They tried to trade him to the Giants. No, he told them from the beginning he wasn't going there. He told them New York or Los Angeles is where you need to send me. The problem is that they didn't have to trade him. They think they have to trade him. They didn't have to trade him. They traded him. But we're in a place where you've got Derek Jeter, former famous Yankee, aiding his former team in a way that makes him, Mr. December. And I'm telling you, what happened here with South Florida, we all in South Florida should have gotten one of those famous Jeter gift baskets Sunday morning after the way that played out.
Oh, we went there. All right. We're going to hear from Stanton, who just did a presser himself. So wrap a bow on this topic. And also the one analyst saying Baker Mayfield should be not the number one quarterback, the number one overall pick. It's ESPN Radio with Will Cain. Tim Hasselbeck will be by. Biggest news of the day, Carson Wentz out with the ACL. We knew that yesterday. That hit was nasty. He ran into the end zone on the right side. It was a touchdown, but it was called back, and then he stays in for 4 more plays, throws a touchdown pass on 4th and goal. So the Eagles' situation without Wentz, and we'll talk with Hasselbeck about all that, as I almost lose my voice a little bit. Will Cain, the Russillo Show, it's ESPN Radio. We just were talking about Stanton, Jeter, the dilemma, and Jeter's explaining the whole deal like we had to move on. Stanton didn't want to be part of a rebuild. Here is Stanton now saying, okay, not only did I not want to be here for the rebuild, but there were teams I told these guys I'd accept a trade to and teams that I wouldn't. Here's Stanton.
The way they wanted to go was to subtract. So I let that be known. I didn't want to be a part of another rebuild, another losing season, and that's almost a guaranteed losing season, taking away what I thought was a great lineup. So, yes, I didn't want to be a part of a rebuild. Now, I gave my list of teams prior to, and they went to San Francisco and Cardinals and struck deals with them. So I was open to listen to them, but those were not my teams, and those are great people. They were great meetings and a great organization and culture there, but that just wasn't the fit for me.
Is there a way to sell this to Marlins fans? Is there a way to say, you know what? Jeter didn't screw this up.
No, this is just tough medicine that you take down. That's all that is. I mean, I don't know how you sell tough medicine. You just grit your teeth, get through it, and hope to be better in a few months. I mean, I don't know how you sell something that you have to do that hurts. But do you disagree with me? Do you agree with Dan Le Batard? This didn't have to be done?
Yeah, I mean, that's my whole point.
Well, your point is it doesn't have to be done now.
Here's what I think is funny about the Stanton contract. Is okay, he's owed like...
You're like the Jerry Jones in this equation.
$295. He's owed $295 million. What would he get as a free agent? Less?
$265 is what the Yankees take on, right?
Yeah, and they get him cheaper. That was like the A-Rod thing. Like, you got A-Rod and you didn't have to pay him. Then the Yankees did it to themselves by letting him opt out and giving him a raise nobody else was going to do. I just think if the offers are this bad, you go, all right, man, you don't want to be part of the rebuild? Let's go 60 and 100. You're batting fourth. And people are like, oh, you can't have that. Why can't you? Like, look, it's a reach of a comparison, but I actually think it's somewhat accurate. Okafor is not Giancarlo Stanton, but he was with the Sixers, and everyone's like, just cut him. Who cares? Dead weight. There's no future. You never would want to play him. And their front office of the Sixers is like, no, we still think we may need it to flip in a contract later on. Let's wait until the trade deadline. There's no rush in this. He's not hurting us necessarily. And they ended up trading him for a rotation guy that they're going to get back in Booker when everybody wanted him to cut him. My point is, like, when the offer is so bad, Stanton and marginal prospects, and you're kicking in money, have him stay for a year. That's not hard.
Yes, and your entire perspective is banking on the idea that the deals will get better. But on the flip side of the equation, to defend Jeter, to be devil's advocate, you're getting 60 wins with him. You're doing what? 50 wins without him? And you got to start over at some point. You got to get that salary off the books, or you're going to be hamstrung in what you can do moving forward. He's the first piece, not the last piece. They're going to be getting rid of other guys. They're going to be trading everyone, probably even Starlin Castro. He will be on the market as well. So holding him around for another year to get 60 wins just puts on hold everything you want to get accomplished to get back to some level. By the way, you're also not filling up your stadium with him. So what's the downside?
I do think, and even though I don't normally go this way, is that there is value in not having a horrible first impression that mimics the previous regime's management style. Back when they opened the new stadium, we're going to go do this. They signed Mark Burley. They signed Jose Reyes. They bring in Heath Bell. Those contracts were a joke. Burley makes $6 million in the first year of a $58 million deal. It was so backloaded it went to $18 million and $20 million. And guess what? The Marlins are never paying it. Same thing with Reyes. Reyes makes $10 million in the first year. They get him out of there. He's making $22 million a year in the last 3 years of the deal. Even Heath Bell was backloaded. And they were like, no, plenty of contracts are backloaded when I brought this up. I go, contracts are never backloaded like this. And Marlins fans that yelled at me 3 years ago when the Stanton deal was extended said, no, this is different. There's a no trade clause. They thought the no trade clause was going to help them. And in fact, it totally burned them because Stanton, that's the thing is if you're going Stanton, okay, you only want to go to the Dodgers, you only want to go to New York. It's Castro and it's marginal guys. I'll keep you just to make a better first impression so people don't think this is Loria Sampson too. And that's how it feels today if you're a Marlins fan. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, well, now they're on the road to getting better.
You think they're going to get better because of this?
It's the only path forward. Not in the short term, for sure, but in the long term.
Do you want to do Baker with Hasselbeck? Let's do that.
He's the right guy to talk to.
So we'll break a little early here. Tim Hasselbeck's going to join us. We'll talk Baker Mayfield. We'll talk Wentz. We'll do all that stuff. Maybe we start with Wentz and do Baker a little bit later. With Will Cain, the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. Presented by Progressive Insurance. Customers who switch to Progressive save an average of $500. Call or click today and find out if we could save you hundreds on your car insurance. It's ESPN Radio. Carson Wentz out for the rest of the season. We knew that kind of last night, but confirmed today before the Russillo Show got started with Will Cain. Tim Hasselbeck now for the next 30 minutes or so. Tweet the show, 1-800-Flowers.com, Twitter feed, @Russillo Show. Capture the excitement of Christmas morning with 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order 12 peppermint roses for only $29.99, you'll get an extra half dozen NFAs for free. You go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. What is up, my man?
What's up? It's brutal news on Carson Wentz.
I was surprised, I guess, from the start of the show where you go, okay, do you do the opening topic of what does it mean for the Eagles? You go, well, who's debating this? But it seemed like a lot of players think that with Foles, they can still compete. Like, where are you with this whole thing?
Well, I do think that, just look around at, Blake Bortles is on a team that's probably going to win their division and go to the postseason. You have, Case Keenum playing well, and then you have, even just younger, inexperienced guys playing well. And so you think, well, look, Nick Foles has started a bunch of games. It's a good football team. Can they be okay? And I think they can. I just believe they have to change a lot because, Nick doesn't have the same skill set that Carson Wentz does. They're, roughly the same height and weight probably. But in terms of just being a quick twitch athlete, that's not Nick's game. And his ability to do that is conducive to a lot of the stuff they've been doing on offense.
I think everybody's pretty hopeful about Nick Foles based on that 1 year, Tim.
Sure, yeah.
That year's a massive outlier in his career. How do you have a year like that? Who is he? Is he that guy? Or is he the guy we saw?
But who's Case Keenum?
Right now, he's this guy.
The only thing we came up with is these guys are all better off without Jeff Fisher.
That's Case Keenum. You're saying
Keenum,
Goff,
Foles, and then Goff.
Yeah. And listen, it's fair to go from that staff and then to have it, have the success that those guys are having. I think part of it is you go, okay, well, Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson, was around Nick in Kansas City. Doug Peterson wanted him, in Philadelphia. When they had Chase Daniel, they decided, look, we'd rather have Nick Foles than Chase Daniel. Chase Daniel, I think by some people is viewed as a guy that was a very, kind of quality level backup. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do to kind of make this go with Nick Foles' skill set. So, I'll give you an example in the game this weekend. When he comes in, they call two, run pass options. So everyone's blocking the run, and he's trying to, basically get the ball out when everyone else is blocking the run. It's got to happen fast. Mm-hmm. And that's not Nick's game. That's not what he does well. Just kind of like the move the pocket play stuff. I don't think that that's going to be his strength, and it certainly was for Carson.
Okay, so then right now, who's your favorite team in the NFC? We look at this and we say, these are Rams, Vikings, Eagles, Panthers. I mean, pretty close.
I think they're all close. Favorite? I think I probably like the Saints. I just think they have a quarterback that is really good. So if the defense has a bad day, they can score 36 points if they need to. They've got running backs that are tremendous and give you matchup issues. They've got good wide receivers. Defensively, they make me nervous because they take so many chances. They're aggressive because I think they feel like they have to take chances. And when you do that, you give up big plays.
Better than what they've been. So I mean,
for sure.
Anyone, I'm not that you don't understand that, but it's funny to think of the defense as a concern when it's always been the thing where you go, I don't even want to talk about the Saints.
Right. Yeah, and so what they have been able to do is at certain times this year when they've played with a lead, they've been really aggressive, and Dennis Allen has kind of been able to scheme some stuff up, and it's helped them. So I'd probably say the Saints.
By the way, Marshawn Lattimore is going to join us tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern. A big reason why that defense has been so good this year.
And I knew he was listening, so I said the Saints. No.
He is?
Pittsburgh last night. We've seen this at times. I feel like this is really weird because you go, okay, well, what's Pittsburgh's deal? And I think most years you go, okay, wait a minute. They're 11-2. They have a quarterback we trust. Got a couple rings. Tons of talent. And it looks like they're going to lose to Baltimore last night. And they have a great comeback. They're 11-2. They're the 1 seed. And I feel like it's still this massive hesitation with this team. And I don't know if that's playing down to the opponent or what, but I would think normally a team with that profile and that history we'd be in love with today.
We would, but I mean, I think they've won their last 4 with like a field goal in the closing minute, I think is what it's been. And so, and some of those teams have been, Green Bay with Hundley, it's been the Colts. I mean, they haven't been these super impressive wins. And so I think, because of that, I don't think it's crazy to feel that way about them. And honestly, Ben didn't play well at the beginning part of the year. So now that they're rolling a little bit offensively, you feel like, okay, yeah, you can see it. But even still, I mean, just take a look at, how their defense is played. And I certainly don't want to be insensitive about it. But, Ryan Shazier was a good player for them. I mean, they're down the line at the linebacker position. And so if you say, okay, well, if you're going to be a real contender in the AFC, you have to play with New England, and New England has got a back for, every down and situation, and
I think that's what it is.
Match up with you.
I think that's the answer. It's not who they are. It's that everybody just looks at New England, especially the way Pittsburgh defends them and does such a bad job of not adjusting.
Yeah,
like last year when you watch them, you go, what? You guys are stuck with this? By the way, the Baker Mayfield thing, I want to do at the top of the next hour with Hasselbeck while he's here, so I didn't want to shortchange that one. I've only been teasing that for about 4 days. I even called into a show this weekend. Said, hey, check us out. So we're going to do that a little bit later.
We're talking about Baker Mayfield later. I'm glad you said that because I was about to bring it up with him right now.
Good. So we'll just we'll push that off a little bit more.
You guys' chemistry is incredible.
What's your over-under on how many times you've bullied people?
You
were definitely the bully, not the bullied.
I think I probably wasn't probably a mean kid. Is like like before 7th grade. I probably wasn't. Probably did some things I wasn't proud of pre 7th grade.
I think that's when it starts happening. Starting to get a little.
No YouTube videos, no videos out there.
No. Well, listen, I don't know how serious you're trying to make this conversation, but the reality is like it's a different world now because of that.
Man, we broke it down every which way earlier, from the mom's perspective. from the social media backlash.
And that's the bullying video if people are wondering where the hell this is coming from out of nowhere. All right, go ahead.
I think I got my.
Why do you think I
looked at Tim Hasselbeck. I said,
do you think were you a bully?
I mean, come on. No.
Guy can do 34 pull-ups.
I was never physically in a position to bully.
Were you a mental bully, though?
Might have been a mental. Some would say I am now.
Especially like the way you treat the Bennett brothers.
Do you think I was bullied or I was a bully?
I think you were a bully. Mm-hmm. All the way through UVM, actually.
I was not a bully. I was bullied in high school. So I was a freshman. So I have a weird deal. Is that when I was younger, I was popular. Junior high, killed it. And then I don't know what happened. Like freshman year, because my father's a humble carpenter, builder, depending on how you want to phrase it. So I still like woodworking. So I took woodworking my freshman year, and I didn't wear socks. So I was like a preppy dress-up kid, but I still really liked getting my hand on a lathe. And these older dudes, docking patches on their jean jackets, they had just about had it with this preppy kid that was a freshman, a little mouthy about how good he was at hoops. And they were like, you better start wearing socks to school, man. Really? I was like, yeah, I'm not wearing socks. Back off. And I was so skinny. I mean, I'm lucky to be cracking 140. And a bunch of them grabbed me and brought me into the finishing room. That's where we have our paints and stains, Tim. Mm-hmm. And they took a brown stain out, just a dark chestnut, and painted socks onto my bare feet.
Really?
And I had to walk around the rest of the day with wet stain in my loafers, probably Eastlands. And
I figured they were G.H. Bass Company.
I was going with Zodiacs.
No, Eastlands were huge back in the day. Had to do the knot right. So then I got home. I had some stain on my white dungarees, and my mom started giving me the business. She's like, I can't believe you got stain on these pants. And then I had to tell her what happened. Mm-hmm. And so then the principal got me $60 back for the pants. And that's when I learned that bullying is not cool.
That's when he started lifting.
No, I didn't start lifting until another 10 years later. I was still college. I wasn't the nicest. I'll admit that.
Yeah, I picture the Hasselbeck brothers were a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, but you had an older brother who's a lot bigger than you, so you probably were nice.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I certainly wasn't. I never did anything like that to anybody.
Or maybe because your brother was your brother.
No, he wasn't a bully either.
Yeah, but maybe you had these insecurities about his success, and then that you took it out on your neighbors.
No, the problem was I was always better at him until you could start getting paid for doing it.
That's the worst.
After the break.
Punt block.
You know what I mean? Early bloomer, not good.
Underrated athlete. You never hear that about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Will learned his lesson last week.
Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
We got Tim Hasselbeck for another segment here. I think we want to get back to that bullying thing, not my story about having my feet stained. A robust.
Gotta give those guys credit for creativity.
Yeah, I'm not even mad about it now. Really? I crossed them off the list. They're not on it anymore. Will Cain.
You run into those guys since?
No.
That'd be good. Hey, guys. Been working out.
Yeah. Do you have any kids? No. I've only been working out. I've only been working out this whole time. Do you have anyone in your life like you? Nope. No wife, no kids, but I have big arms.
Working out.
Payback time. Russillo Show brought to you by Goodyear. Tires as hardworking as college football's most blimp-worthy athletes. Goodyear, official sponsor of the college football playoff. Part of that playoff is Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield, their QB, a miraculous story. Wins the Heisman. He's a walk-on. He shows up. This is after watching Trevor Knight dice up Alabama. Will can't get off of that bully thing. That's all right.
I love the image of you not having kids. No significant other. Nope. Just been working out. Thinking about you.
Thinking about you, Todd.
My stained feet.
This is on. Pollock thinks he should be the number one pick in the draft. Here's the College Game Day analyst.
Baker Mayfield plays frenetic and he makes plays with his feet, but he's always looking downfield. His feet are always live. He throws a deep ball that's great. His isn't all about impromptu. He can play on schedule. The comparison for Baker Mayfield that you're going to start hearing by all these scouts when we get closer, first of all, he should be the first quarterback taken in the draft next year. I'd take him over Darnold. I'd take him over Rosen, all those guys, first of all. And he can make all the throws. He can make the throws down the field, and he can scramble around and buy time. You'll hear more of Russell Wilson in the future. Preseason, everybody wanted to talk about Colt McCoy, Johnny Manziel. If you're watching tape, this dude can do it all, and he's got something about him, man, that just makes you want to fight for him.
Okay. There are comps to who? We go Manziel or you go Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, playing the position, Tim.
So let's say so his what does everyone think his height and weight and
Baker?
speed will be?
People think Baker's going to come in under 6 feet.
Okay.
Manziel was 5'11" 3/4. Yep. Russell Wilson was in the 5'11s.
Listen, Breeze is. I was at the combine with Breeze, and he let out a huge, like exhale when they started. Drew Brees 6'0". He was like, "Whoo, okay, there we go."
Yeah, 5 something just feels so dirty.
It wasn't going to be good.
Size comps, they say, are fair between Baker Mayfield and Russell Wilson
In terms of height.
Yes, and weight, I believe. You asked a third component, though. You asked speed. Not comparable.
All right, so here you go. Russ was a 4.5 540. Cap was a 4.53. Mariota is a 4.52. Manziel was a 4.56. And I got to tell you, there's times when I watch Baker running around, I go, man, he can move. People are saying he's going to be the high 4.8s, low 4.9s. And you go, so is it one of those dudes that just shows up? Is that, not that he's Jerry Rice here, but, Jerry Rice didn't run fast and no one ever caught him. Is Baker just a fast player and not going to be fast in the 40? I don't know.
And that'll hurt. That'll certainly hurt.
Slow.
And then I think when they look at, the 3-cone drill, and when they look at the 5-10-5 shuttle, and they look at that stuff, how he matches up with those guys in that element will matter. And look, 40 times certainly isn't the most important thing for a quarterback, but if you need to be sold on his mobility because of his size, then it does end up being a big deal. Here's another one for you, hand size. Hand size is going to be a huge deal. The truth is, with Russell Wilson, he's got paws as if he's
over 10 inches.
That's massive.
Hand.
Okay, and so that's a big deal, and people pay a lot of attention to that because they do feel like there's a correlation in terms of being able to throw the ball in bad weather, being able to throw a wet football in the wind, that type of stuff, but also in terms of ball security and fumbles. So
I remember when Jared Goff came out, that was the rap. That was one of the problems they said, right? Hands
Small
weren't
hands.
that big.
See, here's the thing, though. So we've gone over all the measurable stuff, okay? 4.9s would be slow. Like some really athletic offensive linemen are running 4.9.
Right.
Not, most of them are in the 5s, deep in the 5s. The Manziel thing scares the hell out of me, not because of the off-the-field stuff. Like, my bet would be that Baker Mayfield, despite the problems that he's had, is not somebody that's going to miss a team flight for an away game because he was up partying the entire night before, okay? That is a lack of dedication where you go, man, you get after it, but you can't even show up to a game? What the hell's wrong with you, all right? When I would talk to A&M, I couldn't figure out. I go, what's the deal? What's the deal with Manziel? Like, tell me. They go, man, nothing better than coming out of that tunnel knowing that guy's on your side. And you're like, yeah. I go, okay, but what about in the NFL? They're like, we can't wait to see what happens. But, man, it's tough to bet against him. And I go back and think of all the things the A&M guy said to me about Manziel as an NFL quarterback, and I realized they didn't want to trash their guy. They just were saying the nice things. They were saying would hate to bet against him, love coming out of there was never specific. It was never not a worker, kind of lazy, really gets after it, doesn't care as much. And, yeah, he makes some plays running around on Saturday, but his hands are too small, doesn't make enough reads. We're running some weird stuff like he's a great athlete, but no. They wouldn't say, so I understand their position guys of them not wanting to dog their own kid, but they didn't tell me anything that was real. And with the Baker thing, I can't figure out because I see a guy that makes great decisions, and, yeah, he's abrasive, but I think his teammates like him. I think he cares more than Manziel, but I can't get past the fact that he's a really small dude, and most of these guys, it just doesn't work out. And because it worked out for Russ, he's not even close to the same athlete that Russ is.
Well, and I think that's the key. Is he close to the same athlete as Russell Wilson? When you watch Russell Wilson play, just take a look. You have, Calais Campbell at times this past weekend looked like he was in slow motion because of Russell Wilson. We've seen Russell Wilson take elite pass rushers. So the guy, just in your mind, think of the guys that look like Julius Peppers, look like Jason Pierre-Paul, guys that can just
Chris Long.
go, can rush the passer. But no, just guys that are ridiculous athletes and then escape from them. That's the difference, in terms of elusiveness on a great athlete and then somebody that was a great college player.
Well, beyond athleticism, the reason that his 40 time is going to matter, the reason that his speed matters, the reason that his athleticism matters, this is the rebuttal to Pollock that I've heard, is that he doesn't do what those other three guys, Darnold, Allen, and Rosen, are guaranteed to do, which is, and you can shed light on this, Tim, play on time. 90% of the time, he's not playing on time, he's playing on his athleticism. Explain what that means.
So I would just say this, and for full disclosure on it, I have not studied Baker Mayfield yet, okay? But I'll tell you, I remember watching Johnny Manziel, and I remember saying, listen, he made some great plays, but it's only because he passed up the throw that he should have made at the top of his drop. And so, that's incredible, but it was 3rd and 6, and he should have had a first down and should have been back in the huddle. And there were a lot of bad plays that came off of him passing up good plays.
Or is he throwing pop-ups to Mike Evans, who's just beasting everybody,
listen,
too?
There was some of that as well. And so I can remember the thing that he will have to learn how to do is that basically one of the best lessons that you can teach a quarterback is that you don't go broke taking a profit, okay? It's the thing that everyone wants to complain about Alex Smith about. But the truth is you can play in the NFL a long time if you will not pass up open guys. And so if Mayfield is just playing backyard football too much, then people are going to see that. Scouts will love the playmaking ability, but guys that have to coach him will be like, man, I got to coach him out of this. That's hard to do.
I'm writing that one down.
You never heard that before?
Love it.
You never
Can't go broke taking a profit.
I heard the story of Charlie Weiss stopping practice with the New England Patriots to ream out Tom Brady because he took a 20-yard pass instead of the initial read that was a 10-yard out for the first down. He said, that's not what we do here. Brady's like, but he's open. He's like, well, then here, you take the play call sheet, you take the whistle, you're in charge. And that's the last Brady ever did of that. That was early in his career. Always took the profit after that.
Listen, there's a reason why certain concepts you read bottom up, others you read top down, some you read outside in or inside out. There's others, that are pure progression. And there's a reason that you start from the shallow cross to the basic cross down to the burst. There's a reason that you do it. Because it times up and you can efficiently do it. And everybody knows where they're supposed to be and when the ball is supposed to be coming. And then you know that after you set that up, there's something that comes off of it. And I just think that if you don't do that and you just are kind of relying on your athletic ability, ultimately, unless you're Cam Newton, it catches up to you. It just does.
So you would not take him ahead of those other guys?
Well, I want to watch him. Yeah. I really do. And
but as of right now,
I will say this, in terms of what other people say, when you watch when the ball comes out of Josh Rosen's hand, you're like, yep, got it. Pretty clear, man. Now look, when you watched Blaine Gabbert and the ball come out of his hand, it was pretty impressive too.
Gabbert's good now.
And no, but when the ball would come out of Gabbert's hand, it was impressive.
He's not.
I just like how you did that and stared straight at me.
But that's part of it. Sometimes
you're right about Rosen though. You watch that showdown with Darnold, and I still kind of like all these guys a little bit. Is that you see it come out of Rosen's hands, or the way he'll read a blitz on 3rd down or something? You go, that's a little Sunday. That looks Sunday-ish to me.
Look there. When you watch Carson Palmer play in college, you were like, yeah, okay, got it. You can see it, and I think that. There's obviously
people
a lot
said that about Matt.
There's a lot of mental stuff. My brother, pick 187, got him. It's amazing he lasted.
Thank you, Tim.
See you, fellas.
Baker Mayfield in the zone Saturday, winning the 2017 Heisman Trophy. In the Zone, brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Up next, bullying from every possible angle. That's what we saw in the last 48 hours. We're going to do that topic because I could have done it the whole show today, but it's Monday after football, so we'll get that going again, too, later this hour. It's the Russillo Show with Will Cain today, ESPN Radio.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha 9. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? how much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
I want to talk about something that happened with Will Cain here. It didn't happen with Will, but we did it in the first hour, and that's the bullying video that went viral. Young boy named Keaton, middle school age, talking about bullying, bawling his eyes out in the car. His mom's filming him on the phone, and the first time you watch a video, if you have any heart at all, you gotta feel a little hurt about the whole deal. But then I explained the timeline of events that's transpired since then, which means this thing has been deconstructed from any possible angle, where today theories that are the mom is actually a racist and that all the money being raised is for the wrong person and that she's exploited her son, and then everybody in the famous side of this thing gets involved. We did that whole timeline, and we didn't feel like we even came close to tackling the whole topic. I just feel like, Will, that topic is so today, and this is all in like 48 hours.
And the reason I feel like you brought this up is because it's also included our industry as well. Keaton, after having his bullying video posted, has been invited to every aspect of the sports world and beyond. He's been invited to College Game Day. He's been invited to SportsCenter. He's invited to the premiere of the next Captain America movie. He's been invited to...
By Captain America.
Whatever.
Dogg reached out. Bieber got involved. Katy Perry.
Right.
So then it starts becoming what?
Well, he's got the ultimate backstage pass right now. But you correctly, I think, diagnosis is this just like there's no winners in this entire thing. There's one loser, and that's Keaton. I mean, I'm not calling him a loser. I'm saying the situation doesn't seem to benefit him in the end, that everyone, I don't know, look. Oh,
well, it sounds like he's going to get to do some cool stuff.
He'll get to do some cool stuff. And also, I would imagine school today was worse, not better.
You think it was worse because the mom posted the video and he became like an over-the-weekend sensation?
Do you think that those boys took it easy on him today because of all this?
See, that's kind of the root of this whole thing. It was like you had celebrities going, I want to talk to the principal. I want to talk to him now. What's his phone number? And then, of course, people posted the wrong one. And they found the right one. And you go.
Do you think that principal came into work and is like, here's his stack of pink missed messages? Okay, and you got one here from Patricia Arquette.
Yeah, Captain America said call him. Here's his cell.
Yeah.
I don't think this is very popular because I feel like I'm such a realist about so many different things. I mean, kids can be brutal to each other, man. I don't know how you solve that. I mean, they're kids.
I don't think this is how you solve it. I mean, so when you analyze this from three different areas, like, first of all, I don't know why the mom goes about, and I don't know what she accomplishes by putting this out on social media. I am a little bit like, I mean, I don't know if cringe is the right word, but the endless and ceaseless retweet of, come on, I can help you, come here, I'm here for you. And then finally the deep dive into the mom's background, because if you somehow end up in the public sphere, we've got to do everything we can to pour through your Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages to find out if there's anything unworthy in your life.
Yeah, right. And that's what started happening to her last night and throughout the day. Let's separate. Can I just ask you then, because I'd like to still think, see a kid crying, you get the deal. School's rough for him. He sounds a little different. You know what I mean? He even says, oh, just because I look a little different, like I don't need to be criticized, and hopefully he gets better one day. It's heartbreaking. Is it okay to believe that, like, people in here, like the beginning, you see that and you go, I want to do something nice for that kid? Then what happens with you, Will, where that line feels like it's then crossed, where the famous person feels like if they don't reach out, that they're being left out of this?
I guess it just feels like your good deed is done a little publicly. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities in all of our lives to make positive impacts on people's lives, small circles, small communities. There are Keatons, as you just pointed out, everywhere, right? There are thousands this week.
Absolutely.
And each one of us have our own individual lives where we interact with human beings who have their own issues. And those are plenty of opportunities to help out in the world. This one just happens to be very public, and why is that the one we... And I'm not saying all these people that are offering to help Keaton, I'm not saying Chris Evans isn't helping people in his world. I'm sure that he's doing that as well. But when it's done so publicly, you're like, yeah...
I'll admit I do that a lot too, where I'll go, okay, so this video, all right, but then she posts it. You're like, okay, maybe if some other kids see this and they go, I'm kind of a bully, and maybe they see it and they see this kid is crying and he's away from school, even if they don't know that kid, maybe that means that those kids that are in middle school, maybe there's one kid who's like, I've been a bully and I see this and I'm sad, so maybe that's a possibility. I do think it's great that, the UFC reaches out and all these people reach out, but I do think that there's a very thoughts and prayers to this stuff when there's a natural disaster, and it's like, I have a blue check mark and I'm a public figure, so I better make sure that there was a tornado in this town and that I send out thoughts and prayers too, so it doesn't seem like I'm left out. And yes, I'm cynical and I'm sorry that I feel that way, but I know it's true. I don't know who's in the sincere category and the not sincere category, so it's cool for the kid that felt sad or has felt sad that he's going to get to do these things, so that's okay. But then when it turns into, like, I would never hit on a GoFundMe. Like, yep, here you go. Here's $500. Cheer up. Have a better Christmas. Like, I wouldn't do that for this. And then it turns into this whole deal where she's being ripped apart. And then it turns into, how could you support her when she doesn't support Black Lives Matter? And then it became this political gender thing where it's like boys are the worst and they grow up to be terrible men. And in today's climate, this is why all this stuff's happening, because of boys that are like, and you're like, wait.
So we got, your point is, in the end, we got everything.
We got it all in, man.
Everything we're fighting about in society.
Yeah.
We got it all inside of a video of a kid crying about being bullied.
In less than 2 days.
I mean,
that's amazing.
It was,
but that's why I think that story is like the most perfect example. If you had to explain today's climate to some foreigner, like, what's it like living in the States? What's it like with social media? What's it? Here you go, man. Hit Google. Read all the responses to this. And then people are fighting. They're like, no, kids don't become bullies unless, that's that born with it or without. Like, how do you feel? Is it nature versus nurture deal? And then it's like, no. This is because of his racist mom that he's liked. And you're like, wait a minute. How, like, this is a kid. It's still a kid crying in a car that any of us, I think, that are decent would feel bad for.
You know what we should do?
Poll?
Based on our Mike and Mike. We were the last fill-ins on Mike
and
Mike
were.
in the history of Mike and Mike. We managed to fit together Colin Kaepernick, Tim Tebow, and LeVar Ball into one segment. We need to get LeVar Ball's analysis of Tim Tebow's response to this Keaton video.
That's next. No, it isn't. What do you want to do? Your call.
I don't know. I can't. You can't do that to me.
I thought maybe we left some stuff out.
Human beings don't do well with infinite choice. You need to give me like 3, and then I pick among the 3.
Do you want to do baseball again? That's a no.
No.
Do you want to do the Michael Bennett thing again?
That would be, everybody listening is like, yes, he does. I don't really.
I don't want to do the Wentz thing. All right, so it'll be a big surprise, like those mystery Oreos. That's next on the Russillo Show. Will Cain at ESPN Radio. Will Cain today on the Russillo Show. All of our guests in the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. This will probably be the last baseball segment we do this week, but this was bigger than baseball. It was bigger than just Giancarlo Stanton being traded from the Marlins to the Yankees. It's the Marlins' history. It's that horrendous ownership, those guys that just destroyed any goodwill with that fan base. I mean, Loria and Sampson. The gall of David Sampson to suggest that Jeter has no plan. It's like, yeah, I guess I give you credit for your plan, because your plan was like, how can we just steal from everybody and lie? Mission accomplished. But yeah, Jeter steps in, and Giancarlo's out. It's the Yankee conspiracy theory. Le Batard even suggested it feels like Wall Street fraud, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. But it's not the Yankees thing that's bothersome to me. It's is Jeter qualified to be in this position? Should Jeter be the point man in all of this? Because Buster Olney's pointed out there's a lot of guys that said he needs more seasoned people around him. This is just because you're this great player, this Hall of Famer, doesn't mean you understand how this thing works out. They get back Castro, they get back marginal prospects, and they move on from a power hitter that, despite the $30 million a year, whatever, we're looking at like $300 million left on this deal. You'd still want that player. He would still be that guy in free agency. And yes, I understand that that's a commitment that Jeter and this group didn't necessarily want to take on. But what you can't do is mimic the ownership that you just replaced with your first big move, and that's exactly what they did. So this then becomes, what, Will, a Jeter question, right?
Yeah, I just told you during the break. So Derek Jeter, from what I can tell, he's put in $25 million into a $1.2 billion purchase price of the Marlins. He gets a 4% equity stake in the Marlins for that $25 million. But in the meantime, he's also earning $5 million a year in salary. And the last one, I just was on Forbes.com, also a $4 million management fee on top of that, and a $1 million travel budget.
A year?
A year.
$1 million travel budget in a year?
Take the $1 million travel budget out of it. Let's just call it $5 million salary. And I got to figure out this $4 million management fee. That's 3 years return on his money.
And that's not, and that's not including what you suggest would be a growing appreciation because of sports. 4%. All right. So whenever these guys get these deals, okay, with Magic Johnson, the Dodgers go for over $2 billion, and you go, well, what's Magic kicking in? But then again, if you're Magic and you go, I'm the Magic Man, all right. So you
there's not another one of me,
right? Part of the price that I will pay you will be money, but most of it's going to be the Magic Man, all right. So I looked at Magic's contribution to the Dodgers. He kicked in $50 million for a sale price that was over $2 billion. He owns 2.3% of the Dodgers, but he's the Magic Man, and he's kind of seen as the owner. I think Jeter is referenced more as the owner of the Marlins than the people that actually put the money in. So,
can you name the majority owner of the Miami Marlins? I'm not trying to put your sport.
No, what is it? I forgot it already. I read about it this morning. I forgot.
I did too. Let's go. I think Bruce Sherman.
Yes. I was going to say Costanza. But
that's always a good guess.
So these guys put up the cash. I think the other part of this, too, is it looks good for diversity. It looks good for ownership. What do we keep hearing? All right, there's not enough GMs. We've lost, I think, 3 black decision makers in the NFL during this season. The number was a pretty good number. It's 7, I think, of the 32 teams. Now we're down at 4. So what does that mean? Are there ebbs and flows here? Well, then the other suggestion is there's not enough black people that are actually in power of the ultimate decision maker. There's not enough black owners. So I think Jordan owning the Hornets was something the NBA really wanted to do. They would have hoped it would have worked out with the Bobcats, but the dude named the team after himself prior to Jordan's ownership. That's always a bad sign. Hey, what's your team's name? Oh, we're the New York Ryan Dogs. This guy's a little full of himself. But is that part of this? Going, hey, Jeter, here's the deal. You're Jeter. You're going to kick in some cash up front, so we know you're good for it. But you're not kicking the check in for $1 billion. You're going to make your money back. You're probably going to your percentage is going to grow because it just does in sports when you own these teams. And maybe you're not qualified for this, but we feel better because we have more diversity in ownership.
Yeah, that being said, as good as the math is on Derek Jeter's business deal,
that's so good.
Sweet as a gig as he's got.
Could I do that?
I'm not in on the conspiracy here. I mean, I don't think Derek Jeter's done anything. I don't think you're suggesting he's in on any conspiracy. I think at the most what you're referencing or suggesting is that he's maybe not qualified to be making these kind of calls. But again, he's not mimicking Loria. He's not following the business model of the previous ownership group of the Marlins. He's attempting to alleviate those problems. He's attempting to solve those problems.
Here he is on the Yankee part of this.
My feelings on trading him to the Yankees, I had no feelings about trading him to the Yankees. We wanted to get the best deal. And like I said, contrary to popular belief, we were not stuck with this deal. This was the best deal out of the 3 for our organization. It was the best deal for us.
So then say no to it. Say no to it. Pay him $25 million to hit the middle of your order at 28 years old. So your first impression is not being the exact same guy that this town, I shouldn't say town, this city in Miami thought they got rid of in Loria.
Or move on with the future. Get $260 million off your books. Get a guy in Castro that you can flip again for another trade. Put him as part of the house
You're
cleaning
reaching now.
And see what.
Yeah, you had me until you said flip Castro.
You don't think they can trade Castro?
Oh, of course they can.
They just traded D. Gordon, who's making $10 million a year. Now Castro makes $7 or $8 million a year?
Yeah, they can trade. Look, anybody can be traded, but I think some of these guys that run these teams, you just go, hey, why do you have to trade him? Like, if this is your best deal, then you say no to it. You get the money off the books next year. And for everybody ripping Stanton's contract, he'd probably get paid the exact same thing if he was a free agent in the open market.
I don't think Castro's the only one they're going to move, by the way.
No,
they've got these other young guys, Ozuna. They're cleaning house, starting over
but
again for the 4th time.
Why in cleaning house does every single player? Because basketball teams do this all the time. You go, oh, we can't have him. He's 24. We're rebuilding.
Right.
Like, yeah, but he's good, and you have to pay somebody. Now it's different because there's no salary floor in baseball. But if I'm a Marlins fan, I go, oh, are you serious? We're seriously doing this again? We didn't even get anybody back good. It would have been the end of the world to keep him and to not have your first impression be this. But I guess we disagree. All right. I was bullied when I was a freshman in high school, and I opened up about it today. It's ESPN Radio. I try to get Game of Thrones involved with everything. So if you can do kind of like a Bitcoin Game of Thrones reference, then everybody will click on it, right?
Does it work?
I think for the most part, people subscribe to the content that we're putting out there, already understand what they're getting, and that there's probably not going to be a Bitcoin as like Game of Thrones segment. full-blown
I
segment?
don't know. We might have one of those in us.
I got a couple Bitcoin segments. I got a few.
Yeah. Are you in?
I'm actually not. I've thought about it, but now's not the time. So,
That's what they said at 6,000 too.
That's fine. I don't care. I'm not. There's no way I'm losing all my money in a Bitcoin rush.
I don't even know what it is. Why would I lose my money on it?
Yeah, right. Like this is not. I'm not grabbing a canteen and an axe and getting on a train here like a hobo heading out west.
Was that a holiday party this weekend?
Was I?
I was.
Oh, okay. You're phrasing.
And that was a conversation that came up. Do you have a go bag? Are you ready? There were some people at the holiday party who are ready, who feel like we're close, and it's time to be ready.
Okay, Will Cain, the Russillo Show. It's ESPN Radio. So instead of it'd be tough in the city to have kind of a doomsday place. Just rent's too high. Doomsday pad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just second apartment. That's
second apartment. So you guys are talking about a go bag?
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not
what's
really
in
a
the
go bag. Well, the guy had a whole list. He showed me his Amazon list of everything in the go bag. Batteries, iodine.
Iodine's huge. Lately, people buying up iodine left and right.
Exactly. Nail clippers, oddly. My wife and I discussed that later. It's like, I think on the list of things you need to survive, nail clippers is low. Like, I can bite them off if I have to.
Did he say gun?
He did not, and I explained to him, that's why I win. You stock up on the go bag.
Yeah.
I get your go bag.
Yeah, I'm going to get your rice.
Right, except I live in New York, so that doesn't really apply to me anymore.
Yeah, because you're in the city, so you can't do that.
So I'm now the guy that everybody takes stuff from.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go to the city. It all goes down.
That's where you're going to get your stuff? Yeah. You're going to come to look for people like me.
Yeah, a lot of stores.
Right.
Nobody's allowed to have anything. Go back. Good question. But yeah, Bitcoin. Did anybody tell you like how smart they were about Bitcoin at this cocktail party?
It did come up.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was an article that I read the other day. 5 things people who are into Bitcoin that know nothing about Bitcoin say at Christmas parties.
I wish I would have read that.
Yeah, because then you would have been like, hey, that's number 2, buddy.
Instead, I just turned and walked away.
All right, well, at least you were not confrontational. We talked about the bullying video, and some people were a little confused why we're doing it on the show today, but I loved it. I loved it as a topic. Everybody got involved from around the world, and hopefully the little kid at the goal of this whole thing is just that he feels a little bit better, that maybe his day at school goes a little bit better. And then we started talking about whether or not we were bullies as younger kids, and we brought up this story from high school.
Previously on the Ryen Russillo Show.
So I have a weird deal, is that when I was younger, I was popular. Junior high, killed it. And then I don't know what happened. Like freshman year, because my father's a humble carpenter, builder, depending on how you want to phrase it. So I still like woodworking. So I took woodworking my freshman year, and I didn't wear socks. So I was like a preppy dress-up kid, but I still really liked getting my hand on a lathe. And these older dudes, docking patches on their jean jackets, they had just about had it with this preppy kid that was a freshman, a little mouthy about how good he was at hoops. And they were like, you better start wearing socks to school, man. Really? I was like, yeah, I'm not wearing socks. Back off. And I was so skinny. I mean, I'm lucky to be cracking 140. And a bunch of them grabbed me and brought me into the finishing room. That's where we have our paints and stains, Tim. Mm-hmm. And they took a brown stain out, just a dark chestnut, and painted socks onto my bare feet.
Really?
And I had to walk around the rest of the day with wet stain in my loafers, probably Eastlands. And
I figured they were G.H. Bass Company.
I was going with Zodiacs.
No, Eastlands were huge back in the day. Had to do the knot right. So then I got home. I had some like stain on my white dungarees, and my mom started giving me the business. She's like, I can't believe you got stain on these pants. Then I had to tell her what happened. Mm-hmm. And so then the principal got me $60 back for the pants. And that's when I learned that bullying is not cool.
That's when he started lifting.
No, I didn't start lifting until like another 10 years later. I was still college. I wasn't the nicest. I'll admit that.
Wait, I left some good questions on the table now in a second hearing of that story.
Yeah.
Did they pin you down while they painted your ankles?
No, two guys grabbed my arms, and another guy's grabbed my foot, and I think they only painted one of my feet. Now that I think about it.
Did you fight? Did you fight
back?
I
was kicking. Or did you take it? I was kicking, but it was funny because the kid that was doing it he was like really nervous. Like I could tell he was kind of like, oh, this went from funny to threatening because they kept saying, hey, we're going to paint your feet. We're going to paint your feet. And you're just like, all right, whatever. Older dudes, you give me a hard time. And you already knew who these dudes were. Like they weren't taking the SATs. they loved, once Rat transitioned into Ronnie James Dio, like they were smoking weed when you thought weed could kill you in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
They worked on their cars, and they were rough around the edges as local guys. They all had long hair, and you knew.
My best buddy was the buddy that he got bullied a little bit. And now that you tell your story, he was like that. He was a little mouthy.
Yeah.
Always mouthy to the older guys, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't big, didn't stop him from being mouthy.
Yeah.
Ended up in some trash cans, got some swirlies done to him, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm not saying I was blameless in this.
Oh, and I'm not saying you were asking for it, nor my buddy.
Yeah, but it's just the age difference. The freshman to 18, the freshman in college to 22-year-old guy, I cannot express it enough. It's the difference. It feels at times like being 25 or 40, So when you're 14 and you're in high school and there's these 18-year-old guys that are smoking cigarettes and,
the hood is up.
Having grown-up dates when the parents are away.
Yes.
You're like still super into Sega Genesis. It's a weird dynamic to be interacting. Usually they keep those classes separate, but woodworking was, everybody just showed up and did it.
You're totally right. And by the way, the picture you painted, I remember that. Rat, Dockin.
And I never understood why those guys were tough, because later on you're like,
they weren't that.
None of you are athletic, because you would have played sports at some point.
They weren't big.
No, in your skinny jean deal, which was before it was cool, was gross. Y'all weighed like 140 pounds. Like, I should have started fighting you.
You know what, though?
But they had huge hair, so they always looked enormous.
And they had that nothing to lose in their eye.
Yeah, but like huge, teased out late 80s, early 90s rockers hair, like that added 40 pounds of muscle.
Exactly.
It's the Russillo Show with Will Cain at ESPN.